They told me not to release this build. They told me I'll be in trouble if I did. And I said, no. As of right now, you may already know about the berserker set, which is arguably the best armor piece in the game, especially when it comes to damage. But what if I tell you to actually have a build to compete with the berserker set? Because that berserker set does require some conditions to actually work. But my build, oh, it works all the time. And before we begin, they also told me that you're not subscribed to the channel, so do it now, and let's go. So, in my opinion, the second best armor set in this game is Lúnda's, and the great thing is, you can get it as soon as you go to Valkyrie upon completing her quest, where you have to retrieve an orb. So, you may feel like this build is mostly a poison build, which is true, but also it is very disgusting because you can make it an elemental build. When it comes to our enchantments, we're going to use Valkyrie set because it increases our melee damage against status afflicted enemies based on our luck, and we do have a lot of luck, but also status affliction can be fire, frost, sigil, or poison, so the more the merrier. Again, we're going to increase our strength by using this. I just threw in there because we need more strength. We're going to use the memento of the ailing because permafrost can now be charged faster whenever we are fighting status afflicted enemies, which we are going to go against. And then the seal of runic storm, always in my backpack because Bifrost is that good, and we can get a summer Bifrost every time you use 3 different runic attacks in a row. And then we have the Muspelheim set because it increases our melee damage whenever the permafrost immolation or maelstrom skill are fully charged based on our runic, which is also looking mighty fine. So we're going to be able to spam our permafrost immolation and whatnot whenever we want. Whenever. When it comes to our grip for the axe, we're going to use the grip of the 9 realms, mostly because I want to be able to slow down time whenever I trigger my permafrost. And you may feel like those 1 second, I mean that 1 second is not, it's not impressive, but you can do a lot in 1 second, trust me. But you can also use this one, the Furious Maul, if you want to increase your strength. Regarding your runic attacks, I would say go with whatever you feel comfortable using. It doesn't really matter, but it does matter that you actually have some fast runic attacks. We can just be prompted without you being exposed for too long, because the bosses can punish you if that's the case. When it comes to the grip for the blades, we're going to use the deadly obsidian handles, mostly because we get a buff to strength, but you can use that one grip which allows you to trigger Ram Shift, which I think I used against Gna to destroy her. Yes, this one. So it's up to you what you want to choose. You either go for more strength or you go for the pommel of the 9 realms. Again, the choice is yours. When it comes to our runic attack, I used Hades Retribution and the Meteoric Slam because, yeah, why not? It is the best one, so might as well use it. When it comes to Draupnir, we're going to use the Hand of the 4 Winds because the strength it gives us a lot of strength, and I don't really know. I don't really use the spear that much for this build, but you can do so. You can use the spear, and that's the beauty of this build. You can use every single weapon. You don't have to stick to the blades. We're going to use the Shadow Star's shield because of the increase in runic, and runic is very important because our permafrost or status whatever is going to be triggered all the time, but also recommend using this round because this round is kind of crazy. Whenever we perform a parry or just interrupt those blue rings attacks, there is a chance that we trigger an elemental storm, and it can be a Bifrost storm, a frost storm, or a fire storm. So we actually have Bifrost on demand, which is kind of crazy. And we can also, in case you actually get some other storm, you'll be able to afflict a status upon an enemy, which is crazy. It's kind of crazy. For now, we're going to use the Wrath Rage, but eventually I'm going to switch to Valor for reasons. And when it comes to the Relic, it doesn't really matter, right? I personally like the Talisman of May because we're able to get that bonus to melee damage, and it can actually get disgusting whenever we trigger our Ram Shift too. So go with whatever you feel comfortable using, and when it comes to the runic summons, we're going to use this one, the poison one for Freya, because it can affect multiple people and poison is what we need to deal a lot of damage in this build. So yeah, go with whatever relic you feel comfortable using. I think there's this one you can use for poison, but because we already deal poison damage with our bare-handed attacks, I feel like it's going to be overkill to use that relic too. So yeah, when it comes to the accessory, sigil arrows don't work on this, but I'll say we're going to use a lot of sigil arrows because they can afflict status quite fast, and whenever an enemy is afflicted by the status, we can deal even more damage, which is going to be a lot of damage. So yeah, but here's a look at my skills in case you want to know, but I don't feel like it does matter. But those two skills every single weapon has, we're going to take advantage because they build the permafrost or whatever status quite fast. Immolation, permafrost, or maelstrom, that's how we're going to build them fast. So do keep that in mind because we're going to spam those moves. So now we get to the part where you get to explain the build and how to make it work properly. And at first you may look at this video and feel like you've been lied to. Where is the damage? This guy is a fraud. I was promised damage, and damage will be delivered to you. Just hang in there tight. I did say at first that this build was initially a poison build, and it is the case because we have multiple ways to afflict poison without even using our running summons or attacks. And here's how. With whatever we use, our bare-handed attacks, or just block or parry, we'll be able to poison the enemies. And if you don't know, poison in this game is going to lower the power level of enemies, which is significant because chances are you're going to encounter a lot of enemies which are, I'll say, which power level is higher than yours, and because you can poison them, then you will be able to deal more damage and receive less damage for them, which is amazing. But remember that this set, Lúnda set, increases our melee damage, or just the damage we deal, by 40% against poison enemies, which is significant. 40% is no joke, it is significant. But also we have Valkyrie set, which is working in the background to increase our damage against status afflicted enemies based on our luck, and being poisoned is a status effect. So we're going to deal, actually you have 2 layers of damage being dealt just because the enemy is poisoned. That's huge. That's the difference between what you saw before and what you see now. The same build, 2 different outcomes. And keep in mind that eventually you're going to acquire permafrost or immolation, further increasing your damage or melee damage, because then you can benefit from the Muspelheim enchantment set. Because it is so many layers of damage. And the thing is, we haven't even started using our running attacks just yet. We're just using our attacks, our regular attacks, and this build is going to be lethal in New Game Plus without you using a single running attack. It is kind of crazy, not gonna lie. So as I was saying before, we have multiple layers of damage, and in case you didn't know, whenever an enemy is affected by Hex, the Hex status effect, which is caused by those sigil arrows your companion can shoot, whenever they are affected by the Hex status effect, they can be affected easier by other status effect. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you actually were shooting sigil arrows and they were affected by Hex. Next time you actually use a weapon, whether it's your blades or your axe or just your regular bare-handed attacks, the enemy is going to be poisoned, set on fire, or be affected by frost even faster. But do keep in mind that the Hex status effect is going to be overwritten by the new one. So yeah, sigil arrows don't work on this, but when they do work, oh god, they work alright. And I gotta say, I love this build because you're able to use whatever weapon you feel comfortable using. You can switch. It's not like I feel like when it comes to the berserker set, you kind of have to stick to the blades if you want to deal a lot of damage, which is quite unfortunate. And those fights can get repetitive and boring because you're going to just go and spam whiplash for the blades, because you also get the cooldown, the blessing or cooldown whenever you do so. But with this build, you can use whatever you feel comfortable using. Permafrost, immolation, maelstrom, you're the man or girl. You do you. This build is about freedom. It's about damage, but we want to respect your ability to use whatever tool you have at your disposal. And oh, I think I forgot to mention that in case you just want to ditch your weapons and just go and, you know, fist blazing and just use your bare-handed attacks, this build gets your back. I was able to destroy Gna without using a weapon, only using this build. So yeah, this build has multiple layers and allows you to, I'll say the only shame is the fact that we don't have a proper skill tree for bare-handed attacks or the shield attacks, which is quite, it is a huge oversight, and I wish they actually do something about it in the future. Maybe not, but yeah, you can just go and punch people to death with your sticky fingers, which is I love it. I gotta say, I just love it. So yeah, I'm going to put some footage here and there where you can actually see me put that build to push that build to the full potential. That way it's going to give you an idea of how to deal with enemies. Like whenever you are fighting one enemy or multiple enemies, this build gets your back, and I believe it is the second strongest one, and it's going to remain that way even in New Game Plus. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to drop a like, don't forget to give me any insight in the comments, and I'll see you soon. And also, yeah, do drop a like and do subscribe. We love this. Bye bye.
Need to take out those springs, brother.
Enemies to your left! It's vulnerable when it glows! Enemies on the left!
This is the last.
Good! Pay for what you've done! You're nothing! Kneel! Rise! Rise! Asgard's life is
Careful, brother! You're covered in bygone!